A candle burns, hoping to illuminate those in its wake. We don't know who invented fire, or how, or why, but it's probably safe to assume that it was an accident of some kind. Most human inventions worth keeping are. Those first of our ancestors who saw the first curls of flame from the first stick were likely hoping for something altogether different, were taken aback, perhaps even annoyed by their discovery. Soon after, though, when fire was tamed and corralled, brought under the auspices of human dominion, there's no doubt that it was used as a platform for telling stories. Welcome to Blue Pyramid Stories. I'm Storey Clayton. Yes, that's my real name. Tonight we begin our series, the first perhaps of many, that we can no more predict the future than we could deliberately invent fire. A very simple idea drives this project, an old but important one. The idea of storytelling, of oral history, of sitting down amongst the community to spin a yarn. It may be true, it may be fictional, it may be written or merely remembered, but with any luck, we will tell many such stories in the coming weeks and months, most of them originals, but a few old favorites from other authors as well. The idea here, of course, is that we are all part of the proverbial campfire or candlelit room. Through the magic of modern accidents and inventions, we can come together across the internet to share a moment from time to time. And while the time is best spent with real people and real fire, there is perhaps some temporary solace in between to be found in bridging our isolation with your artificial screen. For what could be more illuminating than coming together across time and space to share very real stories? Tonight, we begin with a fiction tale, one that I did not write. It is Tomorrow's Child by Ray Bradbury, and I read it to explain the origin of the Blue Pyramid itself, a website that has long been the outlet for my own ideas and ravings, rants, quizzes, and even a cartoon duck. You can find all this as more, as well as all future editions of Blue Pyramid Stories, at bluepyramid.org. Shall we begin? Tomorrow's Child by Ray Bradbury. He did not want to be the father of a small blue pyramid. Peter Horn hadn't planned it that way at all. Neither he nor his wife imagined that such a thing could happen to them. They had talked quietly for days about the birth of their coming child. They'd eaten normal foods, slept a great deal, taken in a few shows, and when it was time for her to fly in the helicopter to the hospital, her husband held her and kissed her. "Honey, you'll be home in 6 hours," he said. "These new birth mechanisms do everything but father the child for you." She remembered an old-time song, "No, no, they can't take that away from me," and sang it, and they laughed as the helicopter lifted them over the greenway from country to city. The doctor, a quiet gentleman named Walcott, was very confident. Polly Ann, the wife, was made ready for the task ahead, and the father was put, as usual, out in the waiting room, where he could suck on cigarettes or take highballs from a convenient mixer. He was feeling pretty good. This was the first baby, but there was not a thing to worry about. Polly Ann was in good hands. Dr. Walcott came into the waiting room an hour later. He looked like a man who had seen death. Peter Horn, on his third highball, did not move. His hand tightened on the glass, and he whispered, "She's dead." "No," said Walcott quietly. No, she's fine. It's the baby." "The baby's dead, then." "The baby's alive, too, but drink the rest of that drink and come along after me. Something's happened." Yes, indeed, something had happened. The something that had happened had brought the entire hospital out into the corridors. People were going and coming from one room to another. As Peter Horn was led through a hallway where attendants in white uniforms were standing around, peering into each other's faces and whispering, he became quite ill. "Hey, looky, looky, the child of Peter Horn, incredible!" They entered a small, clean room. There was a crowd in the room, looking down at a low table. There was something on the table. A small blue pyramid. "Why have you brought me here?" said Horn, turning to the doctor. The small blue pyramid moved. It began to cry. Peter Horn pushed forward and looked down wildly. He was very white and breathing very rapidly. "You don't mean that's it?" The doctor named Walcott nodded. The blue pyramid had 6 snake-like appendages and 3 eyes that blinked from the tips of projecting structures. Horn didn't move. "It weighs 7 pounds 8 ounces, someone said. Horn thought to himself, "They're kidding me. This is some joke. Charlie Ruskell is behind all this. He'll pop in any moment and cry, 'April Fool,' and everybody'll laugh. That's not my child. Oh, horrible, they're kidding me." Horn stood there, and sweat rolled down his face. "Get me away from here!" Horn turned, and his hands were opening and closing without purpose. His eyes were flickering. Walcott held his elbow, talking calmly. "This is your child. Understand that, Mr. Horn." "No, no, it's not." His mind wouldn't touch the thing. "It's a nightmare. Destroy it!" "You can't kill a human being." "Human?" Horn blinked tears. "That's not human. That's a crime against God." The doctor went on quickly. "We've examined this child, and we've decided that it is not a mutant, a result of a genetic destruction or rearrangement. It's not a freak, nor is it sick. Please listen to everything I have to say to you." Horn stared at the wall, his eyes wide and sick. He swayed. The doctor talked distantly with assurance. "The child was somehow affected by the birth pressure. There was a dimensional structure caused by the simultaneous short-circuitings and malfunctionings of the new birth and hypnosis machines. Well, anyway," the doctor ended lamely, "your baby was born into another dimension." Horn did not even nod. He stood there waiting. Dr. Walcott made it emphatic. "Your child is alive, well, and happy. It is lying there on the table. But because it was born into another dimension, it has a shape alien to us. Our eyes, adjusted to three-dimensional concepts, cannot recognize it as a baby. But it is. Underneath that camouflage, the strange pyramidal shape and appendages, it is your child." Horn closed his mouth and shut his eyes. "Can I have a drink?" "Certainly." A drink was thrust into Horn's hand. "Now let me just sit down somewhere a moment." Horn sank wearily into a chair. It was coming clear. Everything shifted slowly into place. It was his child, no matter what. He shuddered. No matter how horrible it looked, it was his first child. At last he looked up and tried to see the doctor. "What'll we tell Polly?" His voice was hardly a whisper. "We'll work that out this morning as soon as you feel up to it." "What happens after that? Is there any way to change it back?" "We'll try. That is, if you give us permission to try. After all, it's your child. You can do anything with him you want to." "Him?" Horn laughed ironically, shutting his eyes. "How do you know it's a him?" He sank down into darkness. His ears roared. Walcott was visibly upset. "Why, that is, well, we don't know for sure." Horn drank more of his drink. "What if you can't change him back?" "I realize what a shock it is to you, Mr. Horn. If you can't bear to look upon the child, we'll be glad to raise him here at the Institute for you." Horn thought it over. "Thanks, but he still belongs to me and Polly. I'll give him a home, raise him like I'd raise any kid, give him a normal home life, try to learn to love him, treat him right." His lips were numb. He couldn't think. "You realize what a job you're taking on, Mr. Horn. This child can't be allowed to have normal playmates. Why, they'd pester it to death in no time. You know how children are. If you decide to raise the child at home, his life will be strictly regimented. He must never be seen by anyone. Is that clear?" Yes, it's clear, Doc." "Doc, is he all right mentally?" "Yes, we've tested his reactions. He's a fine, healthy child as far as nervous response and such things go." "I just wanted to be sure. Now the only problem is Polly." Walcott frowned. "I confess that one has me a little stumped. You know, it is pretty hard on a woman to hear that her child has been born dead. But this, telling a woman she's given birth to something not recognizable as human, it's not as clean as death. There's too much chance for shock. And yet I must tell her the truth. A doctor gets nowhere by lying to his patient." Horn put his glass down. "I don't want to lose Polly, too. I'd be prepared, now, if you destroyed the child, to take it. But I don't want Polly killed by the shock of this whole thing. I think we may be able to change the child back. That's the point which makes me hesitate. If I thought the case was hopeless, I'd make out a certificate of euthanasia immediately. But it's at least worth a chance." Horn was very tired. He was shivering quietly, deeply. "All right, doctor. It needs food, milk, and love until you can fix it up. It's had a raw deal so far. No reason for it to go on getting a raw deal. When will we tell Polly?" "Tomorrow afternoon, when she wakes up." Horn got up and walked to the table, which was warmed by a soft illumination from overhead. The blue pyramid sat upon the table as Horn held out his hand. "Hello, baby," said Horn. The blue pyramid looked up at Horn with 3 bright blue eyes. It shifted a tiny blue tendril, touching Horn's finger with it. Horn shivered. "Hello, baby." The doctor produced a special feeding bottle. "This is woman's milk. Here we go." Baby looked upward through clearing mists. Baby saw the shapes moving over him and knew them to be friendly. Baby was newborn, but already alert, strangely alert. Baby was aware. There were moving objects above and around Baby, 6 cubes of gray-white color, bending down, 6 cubes with hexagonal appendages and 3 eyes to each cube. There were 2 other cubes coming from a distance over a crystalline plateau. One of the cubes was white. It had 3 eyes, too. There was something about this white cube that Baby liked. There was an attraction, some relation. There was an odor to the white cube that reminded Baby of itself. Shrill sounds came from the 6 bending down gray-white cubes. Sounds of curiosity and wonder. It was kind of piccolo music, all playing at once. Now there were 2 newly arrived cubes, the white cube and the gray cube, and they were whistling. After a while, the white cube extended one of its hexagonal appendages to touch Baby. Baby responded by putting out one of its tendrils from its pyramidal body. Baby liked the white cube. Baby liked. Baby was hungry. Baby liked. Maybe the white cube would give it food. The gray cube produced a pink globe for Baby. Baby was now to be fed. Good. Good. Baby accepted food eagerly. Food was good. All the gray-white cubes drifted away, leaving only the nice white cube standing over Baby, looking down and whistling over and over. Over and over. They told Polly the next day. Not everything, just enough, just a hint. They told her the Baby was not well in a certain way. They talked slowly, and in ever-tightening circles, in upon Polly. Then Dr. Walcott gave a long lecture on the birth mechanisms, how they helped a woman in her labor, and how this time they short-circuited. There was another man of scientific means present, and he gave her a dry little talk on dimensions, holding up his fingers so. 1, 2, 3, 4. And still another man talked of energy and matter. Another spoke of underprivileged children. Polly finally sat up in bed and said, "What's all the talk for? What's wrong with my baby that you should all be talking so long?" Walcott told her. "Of course you can wait a week and see it," he said, "or you can sign over guardianship of the child to the Institute." "There's only one thing I want to know," said Polly. Dr. Walcott raised his brows. "Did I make the child that way?" asked Polly. "You most certainly did not." "The child isn't a monster genetically?" asked Polly. "The child was thrust into another continuum. Otherwise it is perfectly normal." Polly's tight-lined mouth relaxed. She said simply, "Then bring me my baby. I want to see him, please. Now." They brought the child. That's all we have time for this installment of Blue Pyramid Stories. We'll be back a little bit later with the continuation, the conclusion of Tomorrow's Child by Ray Bradbury. I'm Storey Clayton. Thanks for listening. Good night.